Okay, now there's a few mic drops on that one. And I thinking of the heartbreak, the betrayal or disappointment, I think just kind of there's a little bit of how I was raised and how I think of this question. And my mom always raised me like to trust someone till they break your trust. She drilled that in me because I was always like coming from Chicago, west side of Chicago. I was always leery. We raised that way to just walk around and be like, oh, just kind of like leery on some shit. And she used to always be like, you got to trust a little more. You're not trusting people. And I used to be like, this west side of Chicago, you know where we live. You brought us here. Like, but I didn't get it at that time, right? I didn't understand that. And I feel like, yeah, I feel like, she instilled that in me of trust people until they break it. And when I started running camps and I was managing so many people, it's a community and trust is important there. Like you got to have trust in the camp community because if you don't, shit hits the fan and parents start calling and news ends up at camp. It ain't good, right? And I really navigated that theory a lot during my years of running camps because it was a lot of people management and it was a lot of younger people who would come because it was seasonal work, right? So I had to really not only trust the process, but I had to trust like, young 21-year-old Caucasian Amy who's never worked with black or brown children. And I'm putting her in a cabin, right? I'm being really real with what I was feeling. And I had to like fully trust Amy, right? And that took a minute for me to really navigate. But my profession in that space, and because it's a 24-hour service, so you work, sleep, eat with these people, they ain't no punch out, right? Ain't no punch out, go home till the summer's over. It really allowed me to practice that moving forward, like getting older, this goes back to the arm's length thing, right? Like some people don't do well with betrayal and trust, especially betrayal, right? Like, feeling betrayed in a certain, depending on the level of where it lands, right? And I know for me, when I look at this question, where probably sticks out more for me, I was like, I can get over the heartbreak. I can get over disappointment. I struggle with getting over betrayal. Right? Only and that's my work, right? That's my work to navigate. But also, I give myself grace because I always know that loyalty was really important to me. Like being loyal and integrity and if I showing up, whatever it may be, however you label that, right? I think of that one, and I'm like that one I'm still working on, in terms of the practice. Any thoughts about that word, the betrayal word? Because I saw y'all nod like a champ when I
I,
mentioned that.
I think
Betrayal is love.
betrayal is that's tough, right? Because that's like a loss of faith. Like that you can break trust, but that betrayal is just like you say he's going to do something. You had my heart in your hand. You said you wasn't going to do it, and like you went behind my back. The one thing I say don't do, you did, and so it's hard to get over. And like what I was going to say when you started talking, Adam, was when you're talking about trust, is like look what your trust built. Everybody is on this call because you took risks to reach out to me. And then I talked to Ruth, and then I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna take a risk and put Ruth and Adam together." And so like it's trust, but it's vulnerability. What it really is, and like by being vulnerable, this happens. This call happens, and so like yes, betrayal and all these things are terrible things. And if you focus on the bad, you'll deal with the bad. But when you take risks and vulnerability, look what can happen. Like you can bring people that I've never met are willing to take a risk on you to jump on this call. Like Brian, this is his first time. Ruth and I are cousins now. Like y'all are my people now. And like 6 months ago, 7 months ago, y'all weren't. And so it like to step outside of all the things, all the bad things that could happen and like possibility plan or visualize and take risks to see what the future can hold. Like this is like Like this is like literally happening in the moment. So like these spaces are secret, that sacred. That's why I forgive is easy, and I know my heart will be broken again. But because this can happen, this means more than betrayal or heartbreak and anything else. Like I'd rather like one of these can deal with 10 heartbreaks for me. So like that's how I kind of that's the mindset I have when I approach it. Sorry, Ruth, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, you was good. I was gonna talk about betrayal. For me, betrayal, I feel like if I'm being transparent and vulnerable, I have betrayed a lot of people's trust. They have trusted me with a lot of different things, and I probably went off and I know I ran off my mouth and said some things that they held sacred to me with me, and trying to gain their trust back after the betrayal is so difficult to do. And being able to do the very best that you can when you've done that to somebody is different when they do it to you. But when you're doing it to somebody else, it lands a little differently. And you have to check yourself and you have to take a step back and say, how can I become a better person to where in the future, I'm not that person that I'm not going to betray their trust. I'm going to hold what they give me sacred to myself and not tell anybody else. So it's for me that's what I used to do to people, and I recognize that I did that to a few people, and I've gone back and I've apologized to them for how I handled situations, and I don't necessarily think they've really forgiven me, but I pray that one day that they will forgive and understand like, hey, I'm not that same person anymore. And it does take time for them to gain the trust back that they once had for me.
Look, I was raised the same way. Betrayal is a hard word. Okay, I was raised to never trust a op, never trust them, you know. But as have gotten older and I've had experiences with being betrayed and then having to kind of go back and still work with those people or still be in relationships with those people. It it's hard. It is not easy. I think what's helped me deal with betrayal is in certain situations, if there is a bigger, enemy, right? I say enemy, but like there's something bigger than us. Like yes, you betrayed me, but we have to work together because there's something bigger than us that we have to accomplish. Um, Situations like that and framing like that, it helps you forgive a little quicker. Because when it comes to betrayal, you have to forgive at some point in order to move on from the hurt that you either caused or that was done to you. And yeah, it's just I've had I do have one like experience. It's more corporate, but I've worked with had mentors who were black that betrayed me. And the whole time I'm just completely shocked. I'm like, wow, out of all the people, it was you. And then, a few couple months later, we're working together again on a project. And it's like, okay, can we settle this difference? Because I don't trust you. How can we get through this? And having that experience, it made not mentor, but it made the supervisor probably like someone who's now in my ballpark because I gave them that second chance. Can't give everyone a second chance, but if you come to it, sometimes people do deserve that second chance.
All right. We're almost at the end here, end of our session. I know the time flies. I'm a freestyle on the last question here and the last thought. And it made me think I'd like to end it on community because I think a lot of What I've done throughout my career, it was all community based, from running camps to building mentorship programs. But even just like what we do in these spaces, and I know the importance of community, community is so important. I want y'all to reflect a little bit on a time that the community showed up for you after heartbreak or after letdown, right? I know we talked about in different ways of being let down. I want to talk about how community shows up because I know in different segments in the last couple months, it's been a pretty much kind of like ongoing thread of how community, like you can't heal by yourself. You got to, you heal with community, people who help you, right? Part of that support and connection, I want to say, thinking of that, thinking of a time where the community showed up, and I'll give you a little here by sharing a little bit of mine. And I think I mentioned to y'all in another segment about like the change I went through during my mom's transition. And during that time, I was going into some intentional isolation, pushing people away who truly loved me because I didn't know how to be myself at that time. And at that time, um, I think the beautiful thing of when you build with people and you build strong, like rooted relationships, they gonna show up for you even when like you say no. And I think part of that is in the spirit of the relationship that you have with that person, that they're not going to take no from you and they're going to still come to your front door and knock on the door. And that's exactly what happened. I kept hiding from people because I didn't want one, they knew I was hurting. And when I say people, I'm talking about all my camp family, all the staff who worked for me, worked with me, all my mentors, all the people who worked for my mentorship program or volunteered, a big, big community. um, I was always used to being shown in a certain light, and that was strength, that was hope, that was like, Mr. Adam got you. And I felt like I wasn't in that light. And one person knew that. They knew that I was feeling that. And I consider myself an eccentric person to a degree. And I love that about me. And usually I connect with eccentric people, and they usually can read my mind a little bit. And this person is Miss Dion. She's part of the healing squad. She hasn't been around for a minute because she's mad busy. She runs the healing center in Inglewood, Chicago, and she's a visual artist. And at the time when I was going through the worst in my life, she created this activity called the Therapy Art Box, and it was a visual art box that kind of gave you a step-by-step form of therapy. So while she was building this, she kept reaching out, and I was ignoring her call like she was the bill collector. Like I wasn't messing with her at all. She knew it. Everybody else either took it personal, said, I'm gonna let him be because he just lost his mom, right? Miss Dion was like, nah, I'm gonna bring the kids. We're gonna come to your door. And she did that. She came to the door. She brought her two children. She knocked on my door. She had art supplies. She had that art therapy box for me and my wife to do. And she cooked for us. That right there is love, right? Because if I'm a cook for you, that means I'm putting my energy into what you're putting into your body. And that to me, it wasn't like all the community. I have other examples where community came through. But when I think of like just Miss Dion and that moment of being at my lowest, and out of all the people who I love, and Dion is definitely in that group of people, she was the last person I would have thought who would have felt that and connected to that. And she did. She cooked me some curry. She took care of the business. She brought the young ones with her. And at that time, I was in camp directing, which is a big part of my identity at that time. So children in my space benefited my heart, food in my belly that she could connect it from scratch. There wasn't no microwave in this shit, right? It was all she came through with, like wholeness healing. But she also came through with like, I ain't taking no. You need help. How else can I say it to you, Mr. Adam? You need help. I'm gonna come through with the kids and you're gonna open that damn door. Like I ain't gonna say no to her on the door because I lived in Wisconsin at the time. She drove all the way to Wisconsin from the south side of Chicago. So I use that example to give y'all time to think about it. But of course, that example means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. And Miss Dion does as well. I'm gonna land my plane. What y'all got for me?
For me, I would have to say it's several things in regards to like breakup, letdown, rebuilding. I can honestly say the people that I've surrounded myself with now have helped me to build myself back up. I get excited, Adam, when you reach out to me and you say, "Hey, we're doing this. You want to be a part of it?" You have no clue what it does for me. You know, you have no clue how it has helped me these last few months to get through this situation that I didn't think I could get through. And for Mike, he's part of that community because without him, I wouldn't be sitting here. Without him, just always, even when we were at work, I would tell him, he would like, "How you doing?" "I'm having a rough day." And he would say, "Give me 5, 10 minutes." And we would just go into the office and he would just talk to me. And I have other friends that I tell them like, "Hey, I'm not doing so well. I Even if I just need you to pray for me or just lift me up." But this right here, for me, I feel like this is community at its finest. This is community that I never thought that I could even be a part of. I didn't even think that I could get to this moment. And adding in like my sister and I we're not the closest, but I talk to her now about things versus before I couldn't. And that's because I come onto these panels and I have these different conversations and I listen to what everyone else is saying. And it gives me those aha moments to where community is not have to be a big community. It could be a small group of people who come by your way. And as Adam would say, it was a revolving door. It was this revolving door. And I was on the other side of this door. And on the inside, I was screaming for help. And this community showed up for me. My sister showed up for me. And other 2 or 3 other people have shown up for me. And it just brings me so much joy and it makes me become a better person.
Dope, Ruth. First of all, thanks, sister, and it's a pleasure. And you helped me just as much as I helped you. And before I answer the question, Brian said like he talked about a situation of a, another black person hurting another black man, and like I just feel like I have to say this: like people of color have to stop hurting other people of color, especially in the professional setting. And just because like you had to go through some trials and tribulations to get to that position to be a supervisor or whatever doesn't mean every person of color coming up after you should have to go through the same thing that you went through. Like it's our job to break down doors and hand out ladders. It should be easier. Which kind of goes to the point is like my community showed up for me recently. Like this week. Like Ruth said a prayer for me. I didn't get this job that I really thought I was gonna get that I really wanted because I'm in the stages between starting my own business and needing some reserve funds. Like Adam and I talked about this a lot. And like when you don't get something that you want, like my feeling talking about heartbreak, my feelings was hurt, but my girlfriend Dom, like she showed up, like just showed up. Like I love her so much. I think it's interesting that we're talking about love because when you're in a relationship that causes so much harm, you forget what love really feels like when it shows up the way it needs to show up. And it showed up, and I was just like, whoa. So in the midst of heartbreak, I'm just like, I'm being healed in a way. I'm like, am I this deserving of all this? Like I love her for that. And so that was super dope. Adam, like calling you and you and Professor just pouring into me. It was just like, he's like, nah, bro, this, you got this, Mike, you special, done. I'm like, oh, okay. And then going to the gym, my mentor, Derek. pouring into me. What's up, brother? It's okay. And we're lifting weights and things like that. So like it's a separate community, but it's my community. And like I feel like a hug this week, and is exactly what I needed. And my sister and I think maybe everybody might have said this. She said, just delayed doesn't mean denied, Mike. And I was just like, I don't want to hear that right now. And she's like, but it doesn't. And I was just like, you right. And so it made me expand my thinking in a way where when I was going through this whole process, I was worried like if I don't get this job, how am I going to recover? And to recover within a couple of days is just a testimony to my growth and a testimony to like y'all, like my people. And so like I when you talking about community, I feel like Oklahoma City Thunder, like how everybody does the interview, how everybody gets a piece of it, like that's how I feel. And so when things do work out my way, that's how we're going to interview.
Have a great example of the community coming through for me. So, like, Chicago is huge, right? And Chicago, there's tons of just resources and things. But one thing I love about Chicago is that when you have a dope idea, Chicago will rally behind you. Regardless of who you are. They haven't even done the deep Twitter dive yet, okay? And they are rallying behind you. So my clothing brand that I have up started when it was just in its baby stages. Like I'm talking, I've been working on this for like a year now. And when I was in the budding stages within like, I'm talking like March, April, I was telling people, I was like, hey, I'm doing this. This is a good idea. Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And when people saw in Chicago, when people saw that I was like taking this seriously, because a clothing brand is like saying, like starting a clothing brand is like saying, I'm trying to be a rapper, you know? It's it's a very people are like, okay, let's see where this goes. But the way my community has rallied behind me, has helped me, whether it was with business ideas, events to attend. I have a whole list. So like I released in August 15th. But after August, I literally have a whole schedule of nonprofit events, fundraisers that people want me to attend to. And that's because people in my community set that up for me. They want to hear my voice. They want to see what I am bringing to the world. So that's definitely a thing. My team did break my heart, but my community, you know, my community, they are coming through. They are coming through. So
I love all that, y'all. I don't know if that filled up your cup as a cup runneth over almost a little bit there in a good way, in a good way. All right, we're at the end of our segment here. We usually do tangible resources, final thoughts, or things like that. Instead of that, just ending it with community and really like beautiful stories. Let's just do a one word gratitude. One word gratitude, right? And mine is gonna. I was thinking about this before I was gonna ask y'all, and I think it's gonna go back to healing. I think every time I have these different segments, just being the person I am, I feel like each segment. And I said this to Michael and Ruth before, but each segment is an art piece to me. It is some form of art, right? And but at the same time, selfishly, I always get my own healing out of this, right? When you like when you surround yourself with like amazing messengers, thinkers, people who have heart and minds that connect, and it's such a beautiful thing. So as much as I want to cook with y'all and be on the opposite side of the host, right? Like as a host, I get to watch the beautiful conversations that formulate. Also, because I have it set up as whoever is the speaker pops up, but I get to see everybody's reactions, which is beautiful. So, one word gratitude for me is going to be healing because every time I do these things, I get some form of healing. And I know when I roll these out and I do shorts and videos and people view them through the messages that I do get and comments that I do get, people get healing out of these conversations as well. So, win-win, healing is my word. I'll pass it to Ruth.
Gratitude. I am the gratitude that I have for this panel, the community, the people that God is dropping just in my life is I'm grateful for it. And it's just gratitude all over the place. I can never really explain it in more words than just gratitude.
For me, it's abundance. Like I've been praying to God for abundance, but it literally just hit me like abundance isn't just money. It's good people in your life. It's good people, good energy in your life, and so I have gratitude for abundance.
And I would say I have gratitude for trials. You know, people talk about trials and tribulations. I have gratitude for the fact that I can try again, that I can mess up and, you know, reconfigure my strategy. A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people can't take a hit and they can't try again. It takes a lot for people to try things again and again. I never expect to get things right my first time in life, you know? And I'm always thankful that I get a second chance or even a third chance. I'm always grateful for that.
Gratitude to y'all for coming through, blessing us with the gems. Of course, if you want to continue to get these segments and get these gems, like, share, subscribe, and comment so you can continue to get these gems. But once again, thank you, Healing Squad. Thank you, Brian, Michael, Ruth, for coming through and giving such great advice. But also, thank you for your vulnerability, right? I know a lot of these conversations can tap into the heart a little bit. And I felt it. I really felt it in this one. But overall, thank you for coming through. Audience, thank you for coming through and checking out these gems. Remember that every week we are providing some form of healing conversations. Just come in and check it out. Other than that, you know what my last words are. Who's helping you heal, y'all? Peace.